So the ND filter that I ordered for the AX53, I've managed to locate. It had been posted to completely the wrong street, which isn't very good, but the girl there was very nice and was going to bring it over. Of course, it's like one of those jobs, you know, you never end up doing. So it's just one of these, which is a hammer. 55, so the AX53 has a 55mm attachment on the lens. And this is a variable ND up to 8 stops. And to be honest, that's quite a lot, really. You probably wouldn't necessarily want to use that much for video, but you know, that's that kind of amount you might end up using for photography, but not so much for video. So if we just take a look at the ND filter itself, really, really simple, nothing to it really. Let's just see if we can focus on that side of it. Will it focus on there? No, it won't. It'll focus on my fingers, but it won't focus on the ND filter. Well, never mind. And of course, the idea being that this will just go over the front of the camera like that, and will allow me to shoot at a lower shutter speed in sunlight, which is a problem, I think, on this camera, because if you're shooting in sunlight, bright sunlight on this camera, it has no ND filter, so how is it going to lower the light? Well, it can do two things. It can increase the aperture, so make the aperture smaller, and any good camera really would have a maximum or a minimum aperture size. Even if the aperture itself could go smaller, it'll kind of have a recommended minimum size that it'll go to stop any image quality degradation that you naturally get when you have an aperture that's too tiny. And the other thing it can do is increase the shutter speed. It can't, I suppose it could technically reduce the gain to negative figures, but then of course you start impacting things like dynamic range and noise floor. And yeah, so if you stick one of these over the front, ideally it'll give me a way of shooting in sunlight. Now the sun is kind of coming out again now. It's very cloudy outside, but I'm going to go out and I'm going to put this on and let's see how it does. So this is the camera shooting in bright daylight. I mean, it's kind of bright. The sun's behind the clouds, so we're not talking anywhere near as bright as it probably would be if all those bloody clouds would move. It's just typical, isn't it? September in the UK, wonderful. But let's sort of pop this over the front and see what difference it makes. Firstly, to the image quality. I think the camera will have to do some white balance adjustment, but other than that, let's have a look. I'm just going to rest it on for now because it's a bit tricky to get over the top. That's kind of, I think, set about right. It's fairly tricky to get the filter over the top. The thread's kind of a bit fiddly, and you just have to get it just right. So how practical it is, I don't know, given the fact that this is a pick up and go camera. You know, it's meant to be a camera to just be able to just literally take it, shoot and be done. You know, do you want to be messing about with an ND filter? Well, maybe if all your stuff's outside for the day and it's a bright day, stick it on for the day and be done with it. But I don't think this will work as a kind of indoor-outdoor. If I go inside now, I think that the camera's going to have to really push up some gain to be able to cope with the reduction in light that the ND filter gives, even on its minimum setting. So it's not an ideal solution, is it? But if you want an ND on a camcorder, go for the FX100, which is £1,500, so much more expensive. I've just re-watched the footage there, and I've kind of noticed something which is a bit of a showstopper, really. God, that sounds like I'm in the office, doesn't it? But having a filter on the front, and this is only about 5mm thick, this filter. Having a filter on the front together with the Boss stabilization that Sony has with its kind of gimbaled lens means that if you move the camera, if you jar it to one side, the lens tries to compensate, moves up to the side and actually films the edge of the filter. So if you just watch this, if you see this side if you just watch this side of the screen there, and the other side. What you can notice there is just a black bit actually going into the shot, which is totally crap, because it sort of means that although you can use accessories like this on this camera, if you use that stabilization, it's not going to work properly. You have to have it put it on a tripod and only do it like that. But okay, maybe I can live with that, I think. I have to just see how badly it does it once it kind of gets going. It might just do it with a sudden movement like that, but it's almost like having a drone, isn't it, where the drone sort of tilts forward and all of a sudden you just get a little bit of the props coming into the shot. Never mind, it's not perfect. What I will do quickly though is just increase this up through its range. So at the moment it's on minimum. If we just, it isn't very bright at the moment, but if we just bump it up a bit, and that's about halfway there. Let's see what the camera's doing. There's no way of actually telling what gain the camera's on, so I don't know if it's having to ramp up the gain now. And there you go, and let's set it to maximum. And there's maximum, and the sun's actually starting to come out a little bit, which is good. And drop it down quickly. And there we go, back on to minimum. So it's there as a partial solution to the whole ND problem, but I would really sort of watch that whole boss thing, because it's going to be something that will annoy you if you're doing some shooting and all of a sudden you come back and you've got this black bit in the corner of your shot all the time. Does that annoy you more than having stuttery footage in bright sunlight? Trade-off, isn't it? Anyway, you can pick up one of these, this Hammer one, for about £25, £25. So not expensive, and it's a good accessory to have in your bag because it's so small anyway. That's it for now for this particular test. We'll be having some more reviews and tests coming up. But please subscribe if you like the channel, and I'll catch you soon.